Yo, this is Steve Bloom, and you're watching Moana Nui Podcast. We'll be starting soon. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Veronica Taylor, and from myself and Ash Ketchum, I just want to say, Moana Nui, I choose you!
All right, get started.
The recording should start again.
Yeah.
All right, great.
Okay. All right. Don't start no mess. Okay. I just told you the recording just started. I don't want no trouble out of you two.
Excuse us, y'all. We transitioning from another fun conversation.
Exactly.
Pardon us.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning in for both the Bop and Moana Nui podcast. We're very excited for our guest, Orlando Jones, right here. This guy.
Is that what I was supposed to do? Hold on. Gang.
So, of course, kind of, I'm going to kick everything off for those that are living under a rock and do not know Orlando Jones. Mm-hmm. Can you tell the audience about you and where they may know you from? Okay, well, first of all, I used to live under a rock, too. And my rock was very comfortable, but it was quite dirty, and I didn't like that very much. And so I moved to go do Mad TV. And after I finished doing Mad TV, I thought, I should do more of this writing and producing thing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so then I went and did a bunch of movies like, Drumline and Replacements and, Time Machine. Yes. That kind of crazy stuff like that. And then I figured, maybe I should, be in Sleepy Hollow. And because it was written by Washington Irving, but I figure if I do Frank Irving, I can put like a black face on this white dude, and it was really kind of cool. So I did that for a while. I read around Sleepy Hollow, and then people got very emotional about this African god named Mr. Nancy. Yeah, they got very emotional about Mr. Nancy because he's a storyteller and also a Ghanaian god, and those might be some of the places you may or may not know me from, or the internet you might know me as Trollando, because that's what I am. Trollando, because I be trolling fools, and so don't come messing with Trollando unless you're ready for it. Just so we're clear on that. Exactly. So of course, it in entertainment world for us. With the cancellation of shows like Lovecraft Country, Watchmen, and now Tom Swift, what is your take on the future of Afrofuturism, Black speculative fiction, and Blacks in sci-fi on TV, streaming platforms, and movies? Wow, you hit me with the serious question for that one too. I think, look, I've seen a lot of diversity movements happen in Hollywood. I still think that the primary problem is an infrastructure one, in the sense that if you're not a member of the Screen Actors Guild or the Writers Guild or DGA, then you don't have the opportunity to work on the types of shows that have those types of budgets that you just referenced. Mm-hmm. And so, though, I mean, Damon Lindelof, I thought did a wonderful job on that show, and clearly there were other voices in those rooms that were helping him sort through some of the complexities of those issues that he was addressing. I still think that those stories are probably going to be better served by storytellers that have a more authentic relationship with that type of material. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if those people aren't members of a guild, then how does that actually happen? Yes, right? Exactly. So I hope that what happens is there becomes a mechanism to allow that to happen, because then I think we truly get diversity in storytelling, because ultimately you need the storyteller to have an authentic relationship. Yes. Or you need the storyteller to have a voice in the room with other storytellers by which to say, not this, kind of more that, right? Mm-hmm. And in the absence of that, I think you end up with the
hodgepodge of content that we often get that is sometimes satisfying, but sometimes dissatisfying because it isn't able to really balance how to tell those stories in a way that it can bridge the gap to speak to 2 or 3 audiences at once.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I think it's critically important as storytellers that we figure out how to do so.
Yes.
But it's a very delicate balance. It's even more delicate in today's culture because identity politics has inflamed things in a particular way.
Yeah.
And our hope is that, I don't expect that Hollywood's going to get it right because I don't see independent filmmakers getting it so right either.
Yes.
True.
So I just think what we're describing is difficult, a difficult balance in storytelling that is only going to be often achieved if we bring more diverse voices into the room and allow them to be a part of the final edit.
Yeah.
Not just the acting part or they wrote a part, but it's they have to be in the decision-making process from soup to nuts in order to lead away from those pitfalls that some people fall into.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the storytelling aspect because it's a big part of what we like to do on our podcast. So take all the stuff aside. If you could do like a film or a TV show, like what content would you want to cover? What kind of story would you want to tell?
It's always difficult for me to answer simply because I have so many projects going on at once and also have so many projects that I'm working on for other people. So I don't separate them that way in my mind, really, if I'm being honest. A lot of times I find myself on a project, I get hired to do a project, and I'm into it because obviously I accepted the job.
Right.
But I want to give them my A game, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I certainly don't want them to think I'm taking their money and I'm thinking about my project really in the background. And I really don't think of it that way because I started off as a writer and I really take that process very seriously.
Right.
Having said that, I think that we are in a very particular period in history. And I think it is similar to past periods, but it also is very different in some particular ways. And I believe that the process of master and apprentice is gone. And I believe that we have abandoned young people while we blame young people. I think that these are problematic aspects of our storytelling and our narrative as storytellers. I believe that many-to-many communication has given me the ability to find and see trauma easily because the algorithm is a train wreck. Its job is to show you a train wreck so you stop and go, look at that train wreck. That's crazy. Let's comment on that train wreck. Right? So its job is to do that, right? So I don't need you to show me a train wreck.
Right.
So I am hopeful that content finds a way to become more hopeful. And that I'm not saying that we should diminish the war for human rights that is ongoing, but I also think we have to frame it in such a way that we can organize and move towards solutions rather than frame it in such a way that everything is such doom and gloom that I don't know why I would sit and want to watch 8 hours of hell.
Right.
I've already got the algorithm showing me every little snippet of hell that just happened. If there's racism anywhere, they're going to show me a clip of that Karen.
So true.
All right. There's a check that don't get cashed. They're going to show me that racist teller. So, I mean, my point is I'm going to see plenty of that. I want something more hopeful in my story. It can still be rageful and be hopeful, but that delicate balance of truth and entertainment, I think, is an important one. I like to write about that or infuse that into whatever I'm doing, no matter what I'm doing. As an artist, I think that's what James Baldwin and Nina Simone and the artists that I grew up revering, Dick Gregory, they were always talking about the human condition as a part of their art. So that to me is just what I try and infuse in any project I'm doing, because as an artist, I'm the hunted. I'm a black dude.
Right.
I just so happen to be the privileged hunted, right? And the privileged hunted is a really different perspective, right? But I am privileged, right? But I'm the hunted. And it's a different thing. It's just you don't know what you're gonna get. It's gonna be like, oh my God, I can't believe it's you, or it's like, You know, they cross. Somebody's right. Grab your. The clutch is in. The clutch. You know, I mean, you don't know. You don't know. Yeah. Right. So I don't know ever what I'm going to get from a distance. I'm just some random black dude. You know what I mean? Once I get closer in, you be like, oh, that's look at those glow. That's not a regular Negro. Those things look expensive. You know, why are those? You know, I mean, he doesn't sound right. He doesn't wait. He doesn't sound like 2 Chainz. He didn't pull up to the scene with the ceiling missing. No.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Oh, he sounds too. But it doesn't really make any sense. See, I think that's ludicrous. I'm from the Deep South, right? Mm-hmm. So my family does actually. There's plenty of people in my family who do sound like that, and they're not ignorant by any stretch of the imagination, right? Yeah. So I don't apply your bias. Yes. But I knew I was never going to star in a movie sounding like that. So like any British actor who comes here and develops a sound, I developed the sound. This is it. But, you know, this is not necessarily my native tongue. Yes. You know, but, you know, so there you go.
Mm-hmm. Now, of course, you know, here at the con and several of the attendees, I don't know if you've seen on social media that, you know, of so many fans of yours emulating your character as Mr. Nancy from the show American God, especially your speeches that you gave regarding slavery and also the conversation with the 2 elder gods. What has been your reaction seeing all of these fans reenacting on TikTok and other platforms your speeches from those from that show?
That is otherworldly. I don't know that I don't know. It certainly wasn't expected. It you know, imitation is sincerest form of flattery, right? You know, I was on Mad TV, and trust me, not everybody feels that way. So I promise not to be that dude who was good. You know, like what the hell? You know, I've been cursed out certainly several times for doing it, but no, it's just beautiful. I mean, I'm so I'm moved by it. To be honest with you, I don't think I ever expected that would go down. And despite my own, you know, expectations, I don't know. There's something transformative about seeing someone else interpret your work. Yes. Yeah. And in those cases, you know, particularly the second one, the human trafficking stuff and the conversation as well. It's just, it was crazy. When I saw that clip overtake the slave ship clip, and once that happened, I was like, I was flabbergasted by that. That really took me back. And also just the different cultures that have responded that way. It's not like it's just black people or it's just Trinidadians or Haitians. It's crossed a lot of the lines. And, you know, for me as an artist, it makes me feel like my insanity is justified. Yeah. Right. It has certainly pushed me forward in that direction in many ways. I don't know. I'm grateful more than anything just to have that touch people that way. I'm deeply humbled and incredibly grateful.
Yeah, like we talked a little bit about authenticity, and I think that was a big part of why that particular role was so powerful. Yes. Did you do a lot of research beforehand for the character, or was it something that, you know, that you were already familiar with and you just wanted to put your own spin on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I grew up with Anansi. You know, my grandma used to read me Anansi stories when I was a kid. So the stories of the Spider God were really they were personal, right? Because they're so much a part of my history, and I also understood how connected they were to the African diaspora, and that you know, I mean, the Middle Passage is littered with you know, and with so many slaves coming from West Africa, you know. Percent or so, and some Muslim. Yeah. And then that society being a matrilineal society and not a patrilineal society, I just felt like there was such a tremendous legacy there. And I was, you know, the women who raised me, you know, were you know, a bunch of ladies of color. So you know that's who I was standing next to, watching the bullshit go down, right? With a very keen eye for what it was, and also my worldview was deeply formed by Black women telling me what I was looking at.
Right.
So that's who I saw him as, and you know, I really was a fan of Neil Gaiman at the time, and I was excited to bring a 21st century Black man's perspective to that role. I understood what his perspective was, and I got it. I understood it. I felt old enough. I didn't look old enough to play his Mr. Nancy. And when I spoke to Brian Fuller and Michael Green, they really were effusive, and they wanted to be a trickster god, and Brian and Michael as storytellers are the type of people who really open up the floor to you, and they really did. They were like, hey, we're handing this to you, but this is how we see it. And I was like, okay, I see it like that too, but with these other things on as a part of it, like I don't think he sounds one way. I think when people pray to him, whomever he shows up to, which is the way you had it set up, okay, so who would be praying to him? Okay, so what did they sound like? Okay, well, he has to sound like his worshipers.
Right.
So he can't have one sound because we don't all sound the same.
Exactly.
So I really wanted to put those things as a part of the character. And they, you know, we had one conversation, and then they gave me the script. And when I showed up to shoot it, there was nobody there except for me and 50 guys pretending to be slaves. And Guillermo Navarro, a Mexican director, was directing the scene. And that's what came out of it. We did 4 takes, and that was it. And that was my Mr. Nancy. So a real blessing to have that support from the creators and the cast. And, you know, it was just it was a beautiful moment for me.
And I love that because there's actually a creator that is downstairs in our vendor area, Greg Alisi. He has a comic that focuses on your character, but also the son is Nana that he has, and he's here. He actually has you on his wish list that when they animate that his series, they want you to voice the father.
Oh no, I'm already doing that. No, I met Greg. I know the series. He's the series is incredible.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like he's an incredible talent. And also, there's a wrinkle there, what I think people forget. You know, Anansi he's a shapeshifter.
Yes.
So there's Anansi, there's Iktomi, and there's Grandma Sparta.
Yeah.
Right. So he's non-binary as well. And Greg's rendition, his world, really touches on those themes in a really beautiful way because he's an LGBTQ plus storyteller himself. So part of, I think, the power of his take on it is he is more authentic to the truth of what that character is, particularly coming from matrilineal society. So for me, his is probably one of the purest, most incredible forms of that story that I've seen. So I'm a massive fan. It would be my great honor to bring that one to life. And he's gifted.
Yes. He's like, that is on his goal list. So anyone watching out there, you want to get
fund
that
funding? Yes. Okay. Fund that. Go ahead. Right now. Go ahead and stroke that check. We waiting on you.
And now I know, Moana, you had another question that you had.
Oh yeah, just one quick one as we wrap up real quick. So, you know, one of the things that we strive to do on our podcast is to highlight the voices of our marginalized communities. And we really respect you for your being unapologetic and a champion for Black culture. What is your advice for those who are still finding their authentic voice and seeking to stand in their own power?
So the internet's always going to tell you what you got right and what you got wrong, right? It has a way of doing that. And I think it's a powerful tool at our disposal that can be used to help us find our voices. And that's not because I think that other people can tell you who your voice is.
Right.
I think it's not about that. I think it's about being on stage and getting an audience. When I originally, began in the entertainment business, I didn't have I had stage experience as an actor, on the dramatic side, doing things like Home and Othello and those types of plays. But I didn't have stage experience. Often the crew was my audience. And I never met the fans. And the crew didn't look nothing like the fans.
Yeah.
Right? So I wasn't able to have that type of relationship. And Sleepy Hollow was really the first time that the internet was at a stage and I was on a show that was genre focused enough that I could fangirl and be a part of, and truly do the stuff that I grew up doing when you didn't have those things. Now with platforms, particularly ones, and I point out things like Pantheon and OnlyFans and Fanbase, because they're places where you can monetize, your creative. And I think they're extremely important. That's different than posting on Instagram. Yeah. It's different than posting on Facebook.
Yeah.
Right. I think as artists, we have that opportunity now and we should take it. And conforming to what Hollywood or any Bollywood, Nollywood, any of the woods think you should be is less important. Because I think that your fans are likely in your region. Yeah. And they're likely going to respond to the specificity of the way you're able to tell the story because they respond to it too. And I think your core 10,000 are more important than 1 million. And I think if you start with that mindset, getting to that million's a lot easier because that 10,000 will get you there. But finding that 10,000 authentic fans who really understand and support you, I think are the most important stages for an audience's growth. I don't think you would have Prince without that 10,000 around Minneapolis who were like, yeah, this kind of weird, crazy direction you're going in. Yeah. You know what I mean? This kind of metrosexual thing you're into, ain't nobody else doing that, right? There was a community that liked the Raincoat and liked Dirty Mind and liked the places that he was exploring as an artist that got us to 1999 and Purple Rain and all those things that became iconic in Prince. But without that 10,000, we don't get that.
Exactly.
So I think it's super important for artists to understand that and for not... how I got here is some weird journey. I don't even know how it happened. Right? And I'll close with this. At one point in my career, people like Martin Lawrence and Dave Chappelle, and who were starring in comedy movies, Jamie Foxx, had spent 10, 15 years, Eddie Griffin, as comedians on stage before they got to that point. Yeah. I was behind the scenes writing on A Different World and Rock Live and Martin television shows, Mad TV. I was a writer who then I didn't have stage stand-up experience. So they were saying to themselves, I spent 15 years in the club. Why am I competing for a starring role with this dude? Where did this Negro come from? What magical box did this Negro pop out of? So my path was so entirely different than the path that everybody else had taken. But it was my path. Yeah. You'll have your path. Right. Yeah. It's nothing to do with my path. Yes. You ain't me. And that path is valid. All of them are valid. Yes. So choose one that works for you, fight your way up the thing, but secure your core 10,000 and do the thing that makes you you. Because there's only one you, and that's what makes you special. So stop trying to be somebody else. Like that's a waste of time.
Exactly. Now, what future projects, if you're allowed to discuss, can we look forward to see you on screen or producing?
Okay, so on screen now, it's I start a film called The Pendage in a couple of weeks. I do The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I'll do Winning Time, the new series on HBO. Let's see, I'll be at Gotham Comedy Club on August 24th and July 24th. I do a series called Port City Comedy Jam, produced by my manager, Karen Tunis. We find communities and regions that really don't have stages for people to perform. She flipped a Black-owned bodega in Wilmington, North Carolina into a comedy spot. I started hosting shows there during the pandemic. We found a lot of comedians from the region. We've now taken them to Myrtle Beach, and we're about to take them to New York. So come out and support dope voices, interesting voices, Black female comedians, middle-aged Black ladies telling jokes, murdering, redneck, toothless millionaires. I'm truly like my girl Steg Stiff is kind of like a Mitch Hedberg, but she's an LGBTQ plus comedian. Just people who hadn't had stages or place to perform, finding those places and putting them out. I'm sort of really proud of her. producing that show and me getting a chance to host that show to push out those type of voices. Writing a bunch of stuff. We'll get to all that madness later. I'm online. I'm Trolando, or the Orlando Jones is me. Okay. And come check me out. And right now we at BlerDCon. So where you at? You're supposed to be here with us.
Yeah, exactly. And then hopefully you will be here this evening because he will be performing at the comedy show at 6 p.m.
That's true.
Tonight at BlerDCon.
That's right. That's right. And don't come up to me like the lady just a few minutes ago and ask me if I was a little boy from Everybody Hates Chris. I'm not the little boy from Everybody Hates Chris. We're going to talk about that during the show, too. We're going to have a whole conversation about who I'm not. Just wait until we get there, okay? I'm not Mos Def either, but I have some ladies. We all don't look alike. We all don't look alike. I was never on Grey's Anatomy, okay? And I would never. I want to be clear. I was never in Joanna Man. Do you hear me? Okay, never. Okay, I didn't never do no movie about putting on no dress so I could just showcase my basketball skills by stunting on a bunch of ladies in the WNBA. I would never be in no film like that. And then how dare you sons of bitches for suggesting it? Okay, I'm done. I'm gonna calm down now. Got my pressure up. Joanna Man, you got a lot of nerve.
All right. Well, we just want to thank you so much for being generous with your time and sitting with us here at the Moana Nui Podcast. Thanks for all you're doing in the community, and we hope you have a great show.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's quite enough. You are a doctor after all. Always nice to see you, Watson.
All right. Hi, who are we talking to right now?
Hi everyone, my name is Dantes Rouse. Currently dressed as Spider-Man 2099. Well, this actually took me about a year in the making. A lot of 3D modeling, some silicone molding, urethane castings. I did all the sewing myself. I've been sewing for about 4 years.
Wow.
And
Awesome. All right. Is this your first BlerDCon?
This is my first ever BlerDCon. I could not be happier with how friendly everyone has been. With it being a black-themed, black inclusive convention, I definitely feel more comfortable having to, I guess you could say, not having to code switch and, talk to the people of like minds. And but the best thing about it is, even though it's black inspired, black themed, everyone is invited. And this is the most inclusive I've ever felt.
Nice. Okay, and how can we find you?
If you want to find me, you can find me at my Instagram, TAFKAR_. And I guess you can say my Twitter page. You can just look up Designer Dantes or I am D Rouse. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you. See you around. Have a good con.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in for the Moana Nui Podcast and the BOP. We are very excited for our next guest that we have. She is the 2021 Cosplay Contest winner for BlerDCon. So as we always ask, for those that may or may not know you in the audience, can you introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Hello, I'm Kiwi Ninamori.
I've been cosplaying since about 2008, and I've kind of started off teaching myself to sew, and then I went to school for fashion, so I got a degree and started doing commissions so that I could help pay to go to all the cons, and I kind of got to explore and do the contest scene.
Well, awesome. First, I have to also talk about how amazing your cosplays are. If y'all go to her social media, she posts videos and work in progress of some of the stuff that you make. And being someone that is a plus size cosplayer, there's not a lot of outlets that really size for us. They go up to an extra large, and then you just hope it fits. How has it been with being in your this has been an early journey in the cosplay world? Did you start off with buying cosplays, or you just went straight into making your own and just making it fit you?
I definitely started off by just making my own costumes. I didn't know that there was places that I could buy cosplays from. Back when I started, Hot Topic was just a place to buy goth clothing, and there wasn't many websites where you could buy cosplays, so I just had to teach myself, and I went from there.
Awesome. Yes, because, even though there are a few, I know from my own experience that there is not that many that are sized appropriately for us. They kind of try to make a design for a smaller body, try to work for a plus size body, which it doesn't work as well. So on top of that, with you making and you only a couple years into your experience as a cosplayer, you go for the contest. Was it something that you originally planned, or was a friend or a family member that encouraged you to go in for the contest for BlerDCon in 2021?
When I had my first convention, on the last day they were having the cosplay contest, and I was just coming into the building, and they were having people that, line up and sign ups for it, and I just thought that would be really cool to try. So I went to sign up, and I just entered in the contest, and it seemed like a lot of fun to meet the other contestants, walk on stage, hear what people thought of the costume, and I kind of fell in love with it, so I kept entering in costume contests.
Awesome. Now, of course, I have to ask, with you creating your own cosplays, do you also take commissions?
Yes, I do take commissions, so I'll have... my Facebook is KC2 Commissions. If anyone ever wants a cosplay, it's available. I know it's definitely hard to find plus-size cosplays, so I like being able to help other cosplayers out who have difficult sizing, because I work toward your measurements specifically.
Awesome. So can you also, you have an amazing cosplay on right now. Can you tell the audience about your cosplay, and how long did it take you to make this very detailed cosplay?
So I'm cosplaying Korra from The Legend of Korra. This is a fan art version by Hannah Alexander, and it took me about 4 weeks to make it. I kind of dedicate all evenings to it when I pick a cosplay. So there's lots of hand beading, hand embroidery, fabric dyeing, and I taught myself how to bead loom to do a traditional native style of jewelry for the character.
So you learned to be able to make it look as authentic as possible to the indigenous cultures that a lot of this came from. That is amazing, because a lot of people don't do that due diligence to respect the cultures that these characters are based off of. So that is amazing. And also, outside of being here, what other conventions can we find you at, for the ones in the audience, that you'll be either a guest at or attending?
So I know for sure my next guest appearance will be at Anime Weekend Atlanta as a part of having won the contest. I get to judge for that next year. I also like to attend KatsuCon, Raleigh GalaxyCon, and so BlerDCon definitely for next year. I want to come back, and so lots of Georgia cons in the area.
Okay, awesome. So
No, I was curious, when you make your, your cosplays and stuff, is there a specific, like, what's your machine of choice? I asked because I make dresses on the side, and, there's so many different ones to choose from. Which one works best for you?
For sewing machines, I like Singer, but I love having a serger because that just helps out with the end. So if you can find a serger, just go for it. Doesn't matter what brand, it just helps.
Awesome. So, along with, with your cosplays, what are some upcoming cosplays that you are willing to talk about, or a character that you have seen that you would love to cosplay in the near future?
Right now, I'm currently working on Maribel from Encanto, so I'm hoping to finish that up this month and premiere it. And then I have a cosplay plan for Jester from Critical Role. I love that character. It'll be my first time ever using body paint, so it'll be interesting.
Yes. Oh, lovely. I love how you are expanding your cosplays, not only just what you make, but you're going into body paint, but also doing the due diligence of doing your research for everything too. So definitely very impressed by it. Of course, I know we hear from a lot of people that is getting into cosplay. What are your top 3 tips you can get to someone who is getting into cosplay for the first time?
Definitely to do a bunch of research and referencing, because there may be someone who's made the cosplay before, and you can kind of see how other people approach a different technique, and you can find the one that works best for you. So you may not be experienced in hand embroidery, but you can try things like applique or painting, and just to make your cosplay your own. So explore different techniques. It's kind of fun to try that out. Also, once you cosplay, kind of like believe in yourself. The fact that you're even attempting a cosplay, that is a huge undertaking, and you should be proud of yourself. So don't let anyone discourage you from cosplaying a character that may not look like you traditionally. This is your choice, and you can do any cosplay you want. You don't have to look like the character.
Awesome. Great advice. And also, as far as I know you gave your Facebook, but how can people in the audience follow you on social media on your platforms?
I'm available on Instagram, so Kiwi Ninamori on that platform as well, and I am trying to establish my Twitter, which is under the same name, so Kiwi Ninamori.
Okay, awesome. So, of course, everybody, if you would love to see her as a guest at your con, definitely you have her social medias you can share with your local cons so they can invite her as a guest, and that way you can kind of see these amazing cosplays in person. Once again, I would like to thank you for your time. We like to always respect all the guests' time and all you have going on. And thank you so much for interviewing with us with Moana Nui Podcast and the Bob.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will.
If this the land of the free, it was a freedom then, when they annexed Hawaii and called it Cedar Lands, without any type of payment and no signing off. Called themselves the Republic in 1894. 1.2 million acres overtaken from the native Hawaiians. When they resisted, the West retaliated in violence and erasure. The Hawaiian language is banned as part of colonialism's plan to expand,
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. The work of all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will. So
if we put Hawaii into perspective, well, Black and Asian history is interconnected. Considering the fight with the Pacific, then and of course versus Asia, they was treated as a middleman for war, but didn't let the Western colorism run its course, cause dark skin was a sign of dignity to core. The land was taken in the name of capitalism, when prior to it was an actual kingdom. Clap back at the system.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place, multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe. As a part of their ongoing war with Asia, used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation, colonizers call for annexation. The work out for all the locals, school will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf, if we won't tell it we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf, if we won't tell it we will. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf, if we won't tell it we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf, if we won't tell it we will. We will.